I started the recording, Josh.
Thank you. Hey, Greg. We still have some people coming in. And we had a little bit of trouble with the meeting link this morning, so we resent it. So we might just want to give a couple extra minutes for everyone.
Yeah, that's fine. Figure out this video crap.
Hi, Josh. Hi, Greg. It's Cordell with Family Promise of Riverside.
Hey, Cordell. Good morning, everyone. We're going to give it a few minutes to let people in, but as you come in, if you can type your name and your organization in the chat box, would be great. Josh, it looks like we have a pretty good group. Are we ready to go?
You read my mind. I think so.
Great minds. All right, good morning, everybody. We'll call the Wednesday, June 22nd, Continuum of Care meeting to order at 10:05. We're asking, again, just protocol to mute your microphones if you're not speaking, and utilize the raise the hand function if you wish to comment on anything as we move forward with the agenda. With that, Josh, thank you. New members, we have Feed My Flock Ministries and no new voting members this month. So welcome, Feed My Flock. If somebody's on from there, if you would like to introduce yourself and briefly what you do. If not, we will hit you up next time. All right. And Josh, do we need to do roll call?
Yeah, I lost my roll call slide. That's okay. All right, and just a reminder for everybody, I'm going to do roll call of the voting agencies to obtaining voting rights. You attend 3 Continuum of Care meetings in a row. And then for any other agencies that are just Continuum of Care members, or anybody else who's attending the meeting, please put your name and the agency you represent in the chat box. Thank you so much. Alternatives to domestic violence.
Present.
Thank you, Matthew. Brilliant Corners, Christine, I saw you in here as a proxy for Norman and Tyler. I'll send that proxy letter over for you.
Thank you.
Caches, Gina Estrin.
I am here.
Thanks, Gina. CityNet.
Good morning, we are here.
Thank you. City of Banning.
Hi, this is Roman. Oops. Oh,
Thank you, Brandon.
I am here.
City of Eastvale. City of Hemet.
Yes, Linda Krupa is here.
Thank you, Linda. City of Lake Elsinore. City of Menifee. City of Moreno Valley.
Present. This is Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley. City of Marietta.
Lindsay's here.
Thanks, Lindsay. City of Rupa Valley. City of Paris.
Yes, Sarah's here.
Thanks, Sarah. City of Riverside.
Present.
Josh, Michelle's trying to get in. She's texting me. She's having, so she's.
All right, thank you for that. But Larissa is here, and we'll work on getting Michelle in.
Yeah.
City of San Jacinto. Coachella Valley Association of Governments, or CVAG.
Good morning, everyone. This is Anise from CVAG.
Thank you, Anise. Coachella Valley Rescue Mission.
Hello, this is Kimberly McKinney.
Thanks, Kimberly. Community Health Association, Inland Southern Region.
This is Brianna.
Thank you, Brianna. Corona Norco Region, Karen, you're
Good
here.
morning, everybody.
Department of Public Social Services.
Good morning, Renee Hexted here.
Thanks, Renee. Desert AIDS Project. Desert Healthcare District.
I'm here, Donna Craig. Good morning.
Thanks, Donna. Good morning. Faith in Action in San Gregorio Pass. Foothill AIDS Project.
Good morning, Leslie Evans here.
Thanks, Leslie. High Expectations Development Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nikisha. I'm here.
Thanks, Nikisha. Inland Empire Health Plan, IEHP. Jewish Family Services of San Diego.
Good morning. This is Becky.
Thank you, Becky. Lake Elsinore Unified School District. Lighthouse Social Service Centers.
We're here. There's 3 of us here. Karen's out of town this week.
And I saw Susan here for sure. Lutheran Social Services.
Good morning, Denise Marshall here.
Thank you, Denise. Martha's Village and Kitchen. Mary Erickson Community Housing, Ayako Atsumi.
Here.
Thank you. Mental Health Systems.
Good morning, Mike Kester here.
Thanks, Mike. Mercy House.
Good morning, Sasha here.
Thanks, Sasha. Molina Healthcare.
Good morning, Hannah's here. And just to let you know, I apologize, I'll have to drop off. And Asia Anderson, I'll drop her name in the chat, will be joining.
Great, thank you. I'll send a proxy letter over too, and I'll make sure I document. And it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Operation Safe House. Path of Life.
Hi, good morning. Chris Oberg, Path of Life.
Thank you.
Leonard Jarman, Path of Life.
Awesome, thanks, Leonard. Beerworks.
Jacob here, advocating over in Sacramento for homeless reform and policies. Glad to be here today.
Amazing. Thank you, Jacob. Riverside County Sheriff Station, hot team. RUHS Behavior Health.
Good morning, Marcus Cannon for RUHS.
Thank you, Marcus. Riverside Unified School District.
Good morning, Ozzy here.
Thank you, Ozzy. Shelter from the Storm. Step Up on Second. Transgender Health and Wellness Center. United Ways of the Inland Valleys.
Here.
Thank you. US Vets. VA Loma Linda Healthcare.
Good morning, Oscar here.
Thank you, Oscar. And Valley Restart Shelter.
Hi, Josh. I'm here, but I am not representing Valley Restart Shelter today. I am representing Housing in Action.
Okay, great. I will note that change. Is anybody here representing Valley Restart Shelter? And I'll work on getting a proxy letter, updated representative letter. Eddie. Great. I will I'll get over that letter. I know I've seen you here representing Valley Restart on a couple of meetings. But that will conclude today's attendance. We definitely have quorum, which is great. And we can move forward.
Thank you, Josh. So amazing turnout. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the consent items. Item A is the May 25th CoC meeting minutes. Any changes or corrections? Raise your hand or speak up. Not seeing any, so I would entertain a motion to accept the May 25th CoC meeting minutes.
So moved.
That was Karen. Thank you. Is there a second? Don't all speak at once.
This is Susan. I'll second.
Thanks, Susan. Any further discussion? Right, not seeing any hands. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, those passed unanimously. Move on to item number 3 is public comments. At this time, any members of the public may address the continuum of care for items not listed on the agenda. Josh, did we have any written comments submitted?
We do not for this meeting.
Thank you. Any comments of items not on the agenda? A couple seconds for a hand raise. All right, not seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is old business, the continuum of care chair and vice chair elections. As most of you know, and I'll give a little spiel at the end, but I'll be leaving, actually it's my last week with the supervisor, heading over to Housing Workforce Solutions in a deputy director position, and extremely excited about that. But pleased to announce, as most of you know, that Karen Roper, my distinguished vice chair, was elected chair, and Michelle Davis from the city of Riverside as the vice chair. So congrats to you both, and I'll give you opportunity for comments at the end of the meeting. Moving on to item number 5, which is new business on the Board of Government seat elections. Most of you on this call know as well that Dr. Matthew Chang from RUHS Behavioral Health, the director, is our new chair of the Board of Governance, and Letitia Delara from the RAP Foundation in the Desert Healthcare District, longtime CoC participant, is our vice chair. So congratulations to both of you as well. All right, moving on to item number B. We received a request that was referred to the Board of Governance first for the city of Riverside to add a permanent seat on the Board of Governance. There was discussion at last week's Board of Governance meeting. It was decided that we would refer it back to the continuum of care for further discussion in order, because of the fact that it would require a charter change. The primary reason, and I'll give the city of Riverside an opportunity for a couple minutes comments on here, but the primary reason was because they felt with the city with the largest point in time count homeless population that they wanted to have a seat on the Board of Governance. Again, there was some pros and cons to that discussed at the Board of Governance, and so what I do here is open it up if there's a representative from the city of Riverside, and then we'll open it up for a little discussion. It would be my recommendation, and in discussions with staff, that we kick this to a working group to determine the feasibility, and then through any further discussion, if there were options to add additional seats, either via district or other per capita populations, and then that working group could come back with a recommendation to the CoC. But I'll leave that up for the CoC to decide. And at this point, if there is a representative from the city of Riverside that would like to say a couple words.
Craig, I know Michelle's been having troubles. She wasn't able to access when I forwarded the updated link Josh sent this morning to her city email, and she just asked me to send it to her personal, which I did. So I don't know if it's worth waiting till later in the agenda or how you wanted to handle it. But I know I believe she was the one that took the lead on this request.
Yeah, okay, well, so we'll do that. Yeah, I don't see her on yet. We'll do that. I'll come back to it when she gets on. So let's move to item number. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Instead of moving forward, I think that we had more information about the Board of Governance seat elections.
Okay.
This is more so for the seats, not the chair and vice chair.
Oh, okay. Very good. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right, Josh. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sorry. So we'll bounce back to A, and we do have some vacancies on the Board of Governance. We have extended that to July 1st for nominations, and as you can see, the listed categories for the open seats. And I know that CoC staff has sent out requests for nominations. So if you know of anyone or would yourself like to be nominated for the Board of Governance, then please submit those nominations by July 1st. Thanks for catching that, Josh. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. And I think when we had confirmed some nominations, we wanted to allow the nominees that we've gotten thus far to just do a brief introduction to the continuum, just so they know, so that all the members know who they may be voting for. Oops, sorry about that. And so far, I think that has only been two, or I'm sorry, three. So I can introduce as well if you'd like me to, Greg.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we'll start with Eddie Ortiz. I saw you on here. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the seat that you are running for.
Was that addressed to me, sir?
Hey, Eddie, I see you've unmuted.
Yeah, there was a lot of echo. I could barely hear that.
Sorry about that. It's a little hard to hear.
I said, was that addressed to me? I could hear there was a lot of echo going on.
I think the problem, Eddie, is it looks like you're on two devices. So one you might have to mute. Although I see it muted.
Let's move forward with someone else right now for the time being. I know that Brian Ambrose is on as well. It's on the chat. You here, Brian?
I am here, just going to turn on my camera. There we go. All right, good morning, Chair and CoC members. Just a quick introduction. My name is Brian Ambrose. I currently serve as the Director of Community Services for the City of Murrieta. I initially got into the homeless services programming for the city back in 2016. It was the first time the City of Murrieta and Temecula met in all of our history to discuss the complex issues of homelessness. What we found at that time was we were just practicing what's called the squeezing the balloon approach. It was very enforcement heavy. We weren't solving anything. We were simply moving homeless from city to city. Since that time, cities of Temecula and Murrieta have worked incredibly close. We've formed the Regional Homeless Alliance, which also includes the cities of Lake Elsinore, Menifee, and Wildomar, where we work on kind of comprehensive solutions to homelessness. Specific to Murrieta, I manage the street outreach teams. We have a full-time contractor for street outreach. We have an emergency sheltering contract through a nonprofit called Project Touch. This year, through the CoC and through the county, we received an emergency solutions grant that helped us continue our emergency sheltering, where since the beginning of that funding, we've served 174 unduplicated homeless individuals at the shelter, which is easily a record for the city of Murrieta. We have case management through CityNet. What I'm most proud of is our police department's kind of their progress in homeless services. We right now have a 4-member community policing team with a sergeant over top of that. This is hand-selected police officers that want to be a part of the homeless solution. So that is great. We also have a CBAT team, Community Behavioral Health Assessment team, that has been helping out. In addition, we have mutual aid from City of Temecula. And I don't know of any other area in Riverside County where we have mutual aid for CBAT teams. So very, very happy with the progress we've made here in Murrieta since 2016. I would love to serve on the Board of Governance and take that public sector seat and keep that focus on the public sector, kind of our approach, data-driven approaches. So with that, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Brian. And then before we go back to Eddie, I'm going to send you an email as well. Cordell Thomas is running for re-election for his seat. Cordell, I heard you on here earlier as well.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Joshua. My name is Cordell Thomas. I'm the first to ever, I guess, executive director for Family Promise of Riverside as a nonprofit seat. We've done quite a bit in the area of getting the organization off the ground, and we're working actively towards stabilization and as well prevention of family homelessness in our communities. I'm excited about the position. I'm excited about the opportunities to work with our different groups and collectively work with our school districts as well to help prevent and or provide solutions for families that are dealing with stabilization issues and homelessness issues. So I'm excited to be here. We're starting off, we're having a grand opening of our first ever day center in Riverside for September 21st, and we are excited about the possibilities of being a part of this great organization and the Board of Governance. So thank you for this time, and thank you for an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Cordell. I'm going to try Oscar again.
Hey, Eddie, did you
Yeah,
you want to try unmuting? If not, I can, so Eddie has already submitted a biography, which we'll send out in addition to all of the ballots. And Eddie, if that's okay with you, I can read that aloud right now. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, great. So Eddie Ortiz is Hispanic from Puerto Rico. He's now an ordained minister for approximately 12 years in the city of Ontario, California at Turning Point International Ministries. At one point was homeless throughout various cities in Riverside and San Bernardino County. He has a great recovery system throughout sobriety with many mentors in the path of getting through homelessness situation. And throughout the journey, has had great success being around positive mentors. In the process, Eddie has opened up 2 men's homes to help get men off the street and back into recovery and out of homelessness. Eddie is now a case manager and navigator for Valley Restart Shelter in Hemet, California, where he has the opportunity to change and help all those in need, just like he has been helped and has helped many so far in the Hemet and San Jacinto area.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Eddie.
All right, once again, for any further nominations, please get those submitted by July 1st. All right, we will move back to item B. I did see Michelle on a minute ago.
I apologize for that. I didn't get the updated meeting invite and our IT system was down. We were only getting internal emails. So thank you, Karen, for reporting the appointment. Larissa was going to speak on this, but she's out sick today. So I'll try to do my best covering this. As many of you guys know, the Continuum of Care, as it stands with HUD, if you look at their website, it lists the Continuum of Care is titled Riverside City and County CoC. We're also the largest city in the county with the largest homeless point in time count. We also have numerous county resources here that are located in the city that do help address homelessness, but also are contributing factors to homelessness within our community. The city of Riverside also receives the Homeless Housing and Assistance Prevention Program funding. We are a direct recipient, but also keep in mind we need to be working directly with the county of Riverside as well as the CoC, because we need to be aligning our goals as well as making sure that we're going to achieve and accomplish those goals in a collaborative manner. So the city of Riverside has submitted a request to the CoC to see if the city of Riverside can get a Board of Governance dedicated seat, whether it's going to be the city of Riverside or it's going to be the city that has the largest point in time count number to help address homelessness and have a seat at the table to contribute. I know there's a lot of cities in the county that are doing a lot of great work. But being that the city is the biggest city in the county and we're doing a lot of great work at the local level, but we want to be at the table looking at how we can address this in a regional and sub-regional manner as well. So that is the city's request. We also have, I don't know if a lot of you are aware, we have a housing and homeless committee that meets on a monthly basis to address affordable housing as well as homeless concerns, issues, looking at policies. They are the ones that actually created the foundation for our 5-year homeless plan. And if this seat was to get adopted, we'd recommend that the chair of that committee be the person that would fill that seat, because it is Councilman Edwards that's been doing great work in our city, trying to move the needle on increasing the resources and programming that we're able to address to increase the affordable housing developments as well as homeless programs and resources, and having her reach out to other communities as well to get their buy-in. So I'm available to answer any questions, and we're here to be a partner, and that's the reason why the city submitted this request.
Great, thank you, Michelle. So I'm going to open this up for comments and questions. Karen.
Michelle, I don't know. I just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to listen to the Board of Governance meeting. They had a lot to say about this because this recommendation went straight to the BOG first and was punted back to the CSC. CSC is the body that determines governance changes. They had a lot of really great suggestions. So I don't know if you've had the opportunity to listen to what they had to say, but I think it would be extremely valuable.
Vacation lab video, is it online now where I can watch it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I figured as much.
I'll
I just
definitely watch it.
wanted to be helpful to you because they had some great things to say. And there are a lot of folks that are part of the CSC that were on that meeting too, but I just think we all want to be on the same page about feedback. So
absolutely.
Gina.
I kind of am curious about why it needs to be a permanent seat. Can't organizations reserve? I know it says just for a few years, but can't they be elected again?
Yeah, so it's basically it's just creating another seat, even though it's called permanent. It doesn't mean it would still be under the same timeline as far as reappointment or reelection.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? I'll just, and I know, Michelle, you didn't get to listen to the Board of Governors, but just a couple of the highlights that some people brought up is that, and everybody understands that, Riverside plays a huge role in our homeless efforts throughout the county, as well as the city with the largest number of point in time count. However, there were comments brought up specifically from people within the Coachella Valley about if you look at per capita, actually Palm Springs and Indio would be above Riverside. If you look at the Coachella Valley as a whole, the number is larger. Additionally, we have two of the largest service capacities and also have coordinated homeless committee through CVAG. There are also other comments from other regions within the county as well. To Karen's point, there were some ideas brought up about possibly doing whether you took like the largest 3 cities per capita and had a seat, or if you split it by had a district representative from each supervisorial district. That was kind of why when I began this, and no, Michelle, sorry you were on when I suggested at the beginning, and Brian, I'll get to you in just a second, about possibly having this kick to a working group to figure out how we address the concerns that Riverside has brought up and the willingness to assist in regional and sub-regional approaches, but also making sure that it's equitable across point in time numbers across the county. So Brian, I'll kick it to you for any comments or questions.
Sure. I'm literally just going to repeat and duplicate pretty much what you just said. My main question is, does this need to be a change to the charter documents to CoC and to the BOG? Same exact concerns. Now, with all that being said, Michelle has been absolutely phenomenal for the city of Riverside. I don't think anyone's questioning that whatsoever. But it's those questions of what is equitable for all of Riverside County. And so I was just wondering what is that process for the document, the charter documents?
Yeah, so you're correct, Brian. It is a revision to the charter, to the CoC charter.
Okay, so the whole CoC will be voting on that in a future meeting.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Right, Linda.
Yes, Greg, you made the recommendation to maybe kick this to an ad hoc or a working group, and I think that's a really great idea. And if you need a motion to that effect, I would make a motion to create a working group to really flesh everything out on this.
All right, I will take that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
This is Kimberly McKinney, second.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, not seeing any. Is there any opposition? Don't see any hands raised. Thanks for taking yours down, Brian. Any abstentions?
Michelle Davis.
Okay.
City of Riverside.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, so we will establish a working group. If you're interested in serving on that, please email coc@rivco.org. We don't want too big of a group, but definitely a working group. Michelle, I would encourage you to join that group, please. All right.
Absolutely. And thank you, Greg and Tanya. Thank you for, bringing this forward as well. And we do appreciate the collaboration that we have with the county as well. So we appreciate your guys' time and the continuum of care.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all appreciate the work you and Riverside do. So you guys are amazing. So. All right, moving on to item number C. I had this added to the agenda, and it's just going to be kind of a 30,000-foot view on our permanent supportive housing and affordable housing stock. This came up during the discussions for the next item at the Board of Governance, questions on what we're doing around permanent supportive units. I want to give a shout out to Susan who brought this up, and as I've tried to do a couple times in our housing resource updates is on projects. But what I wanted to do, I invited Mike Walsh from Housing and Workforce Solutions, who knows all things housing, to kind of give us an update on where we are as far as projects in the pipeline, both PSH and affordable units. And then Mike has agreed that what we will do is he will be giving reports as we move forward on either a monthly basis or as needed in the housing resource update section, so that we can keep you all apprised of the units that we're building to help with our throughput on our homeless services. So Mr. Walsh, if you would like to take it away.
Thank you, Greg. Josh, you're going to bring up the slides. So again, my name is Mike Walsh, Deputy Director with Riverside County Housing Workforce Solutions. I believe I presented to this group previously on some of the work that we've done on affordable housing, and just provide a status report on how things are going. Right now, there are more than 1,800 units of affordable housing that are under construction throughout the county. This reflects a wide variety of product types. Some of these are funding that have funding commitments from the county. Other ones are just affordable housing projects that are being moved forward with commitments from localized cities or just either low-income housing tax credits or other resources, and they're spread throughout the county. We have more than 1,034 units set to start within the next 6 months. That number probably would have been higher, but the State of California Tax Credit Allocation Committee changed their allocation schedule and they've pushed back some deadlines so that some of those will be some of these units that are in the 2,155 with a funding commitment. Those will be coming up like later on this year or early part of next year. And then we have over 4,000 units identified for affordable housing throughout the county. So like in total, you're looking at close to 10,000 units that are under construction throughout the county. And these are all done with leveraging a variety of sources, whether that is land that is owned by local jurisdictions, whether that is state dollars, whether that is permanent local housing allocation funds or home investment partnership dollars or HAP or any number of alphabet soup of funding sources. Because what we're trying to do here as a county in a larger affordable housing field and team is like, how are we leveraging our dollars that we have locally to pull down the larger dollars that are available at both the state and federal level. Like we're different from Los Angeles or the Bay Area or other areas that have large bond measures that for affordable housing, not something that could take on a later date. But we proportionally we have substantially fewer resources, as well as oftentimes the state programs don't necessarily allow inland regions to compete as competitively as our more urban counterparts. Josh, go to the next slide. Specifically on the permanent supportive housing front, I wanted to just provide a little bit of a historical context and like what we're looking at right now. So back in 2017, we had roughly 271 units, specifically units of PSH in like traditional affordable housing project. I know there's the scattered site model of PSH that's not captured here.
but in terms of actual affordable housing, permanent locations, there was 271 units. Since 2017, 228 units were completed. 549 units are currently under construction, and 288 units are currently in the pipeline. And of the 4,000 units that are, and I say the pipeline, those are the ones that really are in financing that we're going to be moving forward, have commitments in the next couple of months. But we're seeing more and more projects as they are looking to compete for state dollars and other sort of funding, including within a 140 unit project, maybe they'll include 8 units for homeless individuals, or a smaller percentage of units because that's what the state is requiring as part of those funding sources. Some of these units that are coming online are our home key projects that are the 80 units that are currently under construction and set to start construction in City of Palm Springs. The 53 units, the conversion of the Ayers Hotel, now known as Vista Dorado in Corona, that will be coming online later on this year, into this year, first quarter next year, which would rapidly increase. And what we're also, these units are form like the partnership that both the Housing Authority and the County Department of Behavioral Health has in the No Place Like Home units, which in comparison to the rest of the state, the County of Riverside has pulled down the second most dollars of No Place Like Home throughout the entire state, only second to Alameda County, which is that's the home of Oakland in a larger geographical area. And then how we're doing this is really done in partnership in terms of how we move these pieces forward. There may be a question of like, how do we, if I have a project or I have an idea or I want to do a home key application, the next home key round would be in the fall. That the state will be putting out a subsequent NOFA. We have heard been talking to developers about projects in Indio and other sort of places. But our first step, so folks are aware on home key, and Karen Roper can attest to this. If it's in an unincorporated county, we'll work directly with our entitlement and everything done in-house. But oftentimes where home key projects are is in incorporated jurisdictions. And we were basically, the county can be a sponsor, a city can be a sponsor. I know the city of Riverside has sponsored home key projects itself. But if it's a jurisdiction that they're asking for the county to participate, we would ask that you go and get like a tacit approval, or basically get the local blessing from the local city that is working in, and we're happy to participate in those conversations, attend as many community meetings as necessary that garner that support to figure out how we can access these resources going forward. But I'll let Karen jump in.
I just wanted to take the time to acknowledge you and your team, Mike, just from personal experience with recently the community engagement meetings that we had for the Ayers Hotel PSH project. We experienced some NIMBY, and I think that is because people often misunderstand what a motel conversion is and thought that it was going to be a homeless shelter. And I just want to give a shout out to you and your team, and also behavioral health. You guys worked seamlessly, and there were a number of questions that came from the community, and you had excellent answers for every single question. And just to look at the progress that you all have made in this time that you've reported on is truly remarkable, and I just want to congratulate you. I know that there's so much work that went behind it, so thank you for all your tireless efforts to support affordable housing in the region.
Thank you, Karen. You're too kind, and I'll get you lunch later for saying all those nice things. But I want to just highlight some of the commitment beyond this from like the board supervisors have made on the affordable housing front. The board of supervisors allocated $50 million of ARPA money in the state and local fiscal recovery funds out of their first tranche of money that the county received, which was roughly a quarter of the dollars for affordable housing projects. And then then they're also looking at making a subsequent allocation of dollars for potential projects going forward. And that's on top of what was previously done with our CARES Act allocation, roughly the $10 million that was placed there, that was done specifically to leverage with home key funds in the first go round of home key. I know there's been some questions on home ARP, on those, which is funding that was specifically roughly $9 million for permanent supportive housing units or homeless units. In consultation with this body, we've prioritized all of those $9 million for permanent supportive housing projects. And we're looking to make sure that those dollars are leveraged with other sources to drastically expand the supply of affordable housing throughout the region. So if there are other questions or comments, but like Greg mentioned, we may not do a full presentation, but provide like an update as to these numbers. And if a full presentation is warranted, happy to do that as well.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments?
Just one other thing, I think it would be very powerful and helpful, and I know you'll need time to do this, Mike, is to provide the dollars behind the projects, because it'll be the wow factor when the Continuum of Care and even the BOG can see the massive amount of funding that went in besides the county financing and project-based vouchers and what behavioral health does. But this, tax credits, home, all that is like a huge amount of investment in affordable housing. So I don't know how difficult that would be to pull together, but I think it would be really powerful.
Yeah, and just for like the larger anyone in economic development that's on the call, basically the total development cost of all of the 1,800 units that are under construction is more than $750 million.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at like it's another massive amount of the people that are working on these projects. These are dollars that that will recycle locally through your local your roofers, your framers, your drywallers, and then ultimately when we get up and running, landscapers, and regular routine maintenance. And the long-term economic impact of these projects far exceeds the initial $750 million investment.
Good point. Michelle, I did see your hand raised, but you put it down. So
yeah, just a quick comment just to Mike. He's been amazing to work with. We always tout about how good of a working relationship the city of Riverside has with the County of Riverside Housing Authority and Housing and Workforce Solutions, even with our state partners, because we are on a lot of calls where folks just don't have that. And so we appreciate it, Mike, and you and your team. Anytime we have developers calling us, we get calls for other cities as well, for developers as well as constituents, that we try and connect them with those cities. So is there a way that we might be able to get these development locations on a ArcGIS map in the future?
Yes, and I would say there's some of these projects are located in the city of Riverside, so I would tout the GIS map the city of Riverside has already, so those are very cool. Some of these in the 4th district are on Lift to Rise's housing portal. And the county, as we're going through a website reboot, we're trying to figure out how we can get these placed throughout, so you folks can get a sense of the geographic distribution of where these projects are. And then I think the one piece that for folks, maybe a lot of folks on this call, even though the project may not necessarily be permanent supportive housing, but you have dollars for rapid rehousing or those sort of programs. If it's just a regular affordable unit, you can place those folks into these projects. So as projects are coming up for the application list, I would really encourage you to get your clients on the list of those the upcoming projects as well, because it's the time when these projects have the highest vacancy rate is right before they open up. So it's the highest likelihood you're going to get into those projects.
And I'm putting the Lift to Rise portal. You guys should look at it. It's actually a really good tool. Mike, thanks. I'm going to echo Karen and Michelle, as I've had the pleasure of being able to work with you on the Lift to Rise Housing Collaborative Action Network for 5 years now, and your commitment to housing is absolutely bar none. So thanks for the update. Appreciate that. Any further questions or comments? So, Susan.
Yeah, so sorry, but I'd like to clarify the statement I heard last about getting your people lined up for the units. Are these units independent of the CES system, or will clients be funneled through the CES system to these units?
So it depends. So if there are funding sources that are specifically related to units for them that require a CES referral, then they would clearly go through the CES referral process. But in the majority of these projects, they don't. For example, the No Place Like Home projects, only 49% of those units are require going through the CES. So so you can go through the CES process as well. but folks can also be routed. They can apply to the general project directly and apply for one of the units that don't come with a requirement that they go through the CES, because not all projects are specifically tailored towards homeless individuals. Does that answer the question, Susan?
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Ayoko.
Yes, hello, Ayako Utsumi here from Mary Erickson Community Housing. Thanks again to Mike and team for your commitment to affordable housing. Just a quick question on your slide. I apologize if you already said this and I missed it. 1,837 units of affordable housing under construction, and then the 1,034 units set to start within the next 6 months. Is the 1,034 inclusive in the 1,800 or additional?
Those are additive. So basically, you're looking at, those are new units that are either be coming online for as either rehabilitation or new construction projects. The 1,800, those are just separate, brand new rehabs or new construction projects that are in construction.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions or comments? All right, not seeing any, we'll move on. Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate it a lot. On to item D is the Homeless Housing Prevention app round 3. Tanya.
Hi, thank you, Greg, and good morning, everyone. Jonathan, I'm hoping you can share the few notes I put together on screen, and I believe these have been added to the Google Drive. These are not items that are going to be requiring any specific action today, but are just notes, and we'll make sure that you have access to these for your own reference. Hopefully everyone is having a good Wednesday morning. It feels good. I took a short break. I went to Sacramento for a wedding and I'm back, so it just feels good to be here with you all, even virtually. Last week, we met with the Continuum of Care Board of Governance. So for some of you, this is a repeat, but based on feedback that we received at the Board of Governance meeting, we have made some additional updates to this announcement. But to bring you up to speed, because I know not all of you were able to join us, the Continuum of Care is receiving a third allocation of HAP funding, and that the total amount that is going to be made available is $4.2 million. And in a second, I'll give you a breakdown of how we are proposing to use the funds, and definitely give you guys a space to provide us with feedback. Our team, and I have to give major credit to Roshana Walker, who is the project manager over the program, has been working with the state and our contracted partners to submit an application that is due June 30th. And what's unique about this application is the state is really making us work for the money. And with that, they've put together some requirements which include us, completing a performance and gaps analysis, which we did last year. So congratulations to this team, all of you in Riverside County who worked with us to complete that task, but also finalize our homeless action plan. Communities have to have a plan to draw down the funds. So we are ahead of the game. Ours was approved and adopted back on March. And a lot of our discussions have really been about moving towards using our data to drive where investments are made, but also looking at that like from a regional equity perspective, which populations of people do we see have the greatest gaps, and maybe we're not seeing access our systems of care in an equitable rate. So how can we better adjust and make configurations throughout our programs to ensure that we truly have a system that allows access for all? So on the agenda, you'll see a list of different links to tables that provide you with a breakdown of the data that was pulled from HMIS and how we're using that to align with some of the strategies in our homeless action plan. I talked about the presentation to the Board of Governance last week, and so we'll move forward and give you a quick snapshot of how we are recommending to break down the funding by allocation. I'll kind of give you a second to just kind of look at this because I know it's a lot. The good news is that, and this is definitely a plug, we want to invite you to join us at the Board of Governance meeting in August. We'll make sure to put the date and time and all the details in the chat box, but we'll send out a reminder as we always do, because our plan is to go back or to revisit this topic during that meeting to have a further discussion on whether we want to keep this plan or whether we want to make any needed adjustments. If you move one slide forward, you'll see that we just kind of summarize all the investments into 6 main categories. So you'll see that 14% of the 4.2 million is being recommended to support street outreach activities. We very much want to maintain our regional coverage, and with that, the use of district teams in each supervisorial district so that we can continue to coordinate referrals that come through our coordinated entry system and our district offices. And again, really to just have a clear snapshot of which teams are covering specific regions of the county. We've set aside 15% for temporary and supportive housing. So this is funding that can be used to support emergency shelters, but also transitional housing or other recovery types of housing that comply with Housing First. 34%, or our largest allocation, is being used to support rapid rehousing and permanent housing investments. I do need to stress that $1 million here is being set aside, as we did with HAP round 2, to support capital investments or the production of new permanent supportive housing units. We hear you on our weekly navigation calls that are coordinated by our CES lead agency. Housing navigators are continuing to tell us that they're having more difficulty being able to find rental units. So that's why Mike's presentation and the work that his team is doing alongside all of our city and other partners to produce more housing is important. But that's the reason why the big investment is being made there. We've set aside 6% towards workforce services, and this is to complement or allow emergency shelters to coordinate with our county workforce development department. There's a lot of money coming in to support or connect people to different employment opportunities. And in speaking with them, we see a major benefit to having designated people at emergency shelter sites that can help people with like the pre-employment process, helping them get signed up, get a phone, get signed up with an email address, and just kind of get them ready for that next stage. The second largest investment is towards system support, and I'll be providing just kind of a very high level breakdown of what that investment looks like. And then there's a 7% cap towards admin to support the CoC lead agency or our department's cost in administering the program. If we move forward, I wanted to share the feedback that we received from the Board of Governance members that represent each of you that you've elected. And I know there was a pitch earlier to recruit additional BOG members. I just want to use that to say that we appreciate the feedback. Staff appreciates the feedback. We want to make sure that we are using your collective voices to really drive the investments that are made across the county. And so kind of just summarize the big highlights from the conversation. One, the BOG recommended that staff puts together a list of all the different homeless revenue sources, right? There's so many different programs that we talk to you day to day, so many different acronyms. You've heard us talk about CASH, ESGCB, and now we have EHV, the Emergency Housing Voucher Program. So at the next BOG meeting, you can look forward to a fuller comprehensive report that shows all those different revenue sources and how they're split up across the different activities. The second request was to put together a housing inventory list. So, what are the number of units that we have in emergency shelter, and how many units do we have in rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing? And then the last one, because there is such a large investment being suggested towards system support, is to break down the costs for HMI, for our homeless management information system and coordinated entry system. And for those of you that have been with us a long time, you know that these systems operate on a 24, like on a day-to-day, are just, they're very active systems, is the point I'm trying to make. Our HMIS system funds 5 analysts and costs about $680,000 annually to support staffing costs, but also a large bulk of that is to support annual costs we have to support the software system that manages or maintains all of the HMIS data. We are required as a continuum of care to utilize this system, and it's needed, right, in order to be able to, have data that we can use to determine where investments are needed most. Our coordinated entry system annually costs about $1.2 million and supports 9 different staff members who not only manage our Home Connect hotline, but also respond directly to inquiries that are received day to day. So, they're using staff to go out and meet with staff who are experiencing homelessness and assist with, verifying their homeless status and other disability verification forms, in addition to helping them get document ready. So we are preparing to provide a fuller update at the next BOG meeting, but I just wanted to share kind of a high-level update of the feedback that we received and really make the pitch to have you join us during the next Board of Governance meeting in August to get a better picture of how our continuum of care is operating, all the different programs that are being used to invest our system, but then also kind of use that as an opportunity to, begin to think about like where we want to go from here. So with that, I will go ahead and pause and see if anybody has any questions regarding HAP Round 3. The last thing I will say is we do hope to release an RFP sometime in the summer, hopefully between July and August, especially for the street outreach and rapid rehousing components. Those are services that are needed, and we would just ask that you, keep an eye out for any email alerts that are sent, because I know we have a lot of good providers that need these funds in order to continue their services. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Karen.
No questions, just comments. Good job, Tanya. I think it's important also to mention that, not only is HMIS and CES mandated, but it's extremely valuable to inform our system for performance as it relates to data. I think you guys navigate and juggle so many different funding sources, and I think it's very important to mention that not every funding source has an eligible activity line to fund HMIS and coordinated entry. So I know you all have to be strategic as staff and looking at the different eligible funding sources to support these mandated systems that do benefit the entire region. So I think it's important to mention that.
Thank you, Karen. You're absolutely right. Just to kind of, sorry, I'm hearing an echo, but I think as you said that, I thought of something else that I had not mentioned, is that in previous HAP rounds, there has always been a cap, like a 5% cap in the amount of dollars that you could set aside to support these two systems. Communities across the state, and I feel like it comes up at every single meeting, have shared and have advocated for that cap to be removed, because like us, they have like the number of housing programs that they are supporting, the number of clients that they are supporting have grown, especially with the emergence of state funding. You know, you often hear me talk about how 4 or 5 years ago, we were mainly a federal or HUD funded program. And now our program, our funding and our program has doubled, has tripled in the, when you look at 2020 to 2022, thanks to funding sources like HF Round 3. So with that, there is a need, and I think the state recognized that by removing the cap. There is a need to make sure that we're continuing to invest in these systems so that we can, on one hand, I think we've done a good job as an example, like moving towards like a paperless system, but continue to provide avenues where street outreach workers, as an example at large, have access to the system, can do assessments on the spot, and we're not reverting back to, when I started, there were only like 2 or 3 people in my agency that had access to HMIS, and so like our 10 street outreach team members had to like all do paper SPDATs and give them, at the end of the day to that one person that would enter into the system. So we're just trying to move towards having an efficient system that allows us to have live data on the spot.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, not seeing. Thank you, Tana. Great report. So moving on to item number 6 is standing items. Board of Governance update. We pretty much have highlighted all the activity that went on at the Board of Governance last week. We have a CoC HMIS lead agency update. I know the information's in the packet, but any highlights at all, Tanya? Or
Sorry. Yeah, and Josh, you can just stay here. I'll just kind of go through these quickly. I talked about HAP with the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program. Just letting you guys know we're continuing to work through that application, largely led by Monique Guerra, who's our Homeless Youth Coordinator. The application is due next week, and we just really want to give thanks to the Youth Advisory Council and also our Youth Action Board who are members that are formerly homeless youth who dedicate their time to meet with us to support youth projects like this one. And then in regards to the street outreach coordination calls, I really just wanted to stress that Morel Cabazon with our coordinated entry system lead agency has been sending out emails encouraging participation in these calls. I believe our first meeting will be in the next week or so. But again, I just wanted to stress that the focus of these calls is to ensure regional coverage. We want to ensure that we can work with cities and other entities to target community events where individuals who are homeless are likely to be at, so that we can make connections to housing and other services. I think the biggest key, and I kind of spoke to this earlier, is that our CES hotline receives lots of calls, both from people who are homeless, but also from providers who are trying to make referrals. And we see this as an opportunity to be able to facilitate direct linkages to street outreach teams who are in the areas where, people that are calling are. And then also, the other big one is we need to make sure that as a county, as a community, that we are prepared to handle emergency responses that come as a result of flooding, fires, and other types of, disasters. So as those comes up, it's helpful to have these calls so we know which teams need to be dispatched where. Our goal is to have all CoC funded agencies participate in these calls. So if you receive ESG funding or any other funding to, for your street outreach teams through the Continuum of Care, we are strongly encouraging your participation. With the Emergency Housing Voucher Program, I really just wanted to remind folks that we really need to utilize programs like the Emergency Solutions Grant or ESG program. So if you are a direct subrecipient and have rapid rehousing dollars, we want to use you and those specific resources to help complement or help increase lease ups into the emergency housing voucher program. These are specific Section 8 vouchers that can help pay for rental subsidies, but clients still need housing navigation assistance and financial assistance to pay for things like credit, application fees, and first month's rent, in addition to also receiving housing navigation and housing search assistance from you. So I think I heard that some providers, some rapid rehousing providers were kicking back referrals if the client was linked to an EHV voucher because they thought, okay, they have a voucher, they're good. But we all know that no one's good. A voucher is not good in itself. People need help finding a rental unit. So this is more of just a reminder to all of us that if someone is homeless, we need to see them through the finish line into housing, and then even provide aftercare or case management services up to 6 months or more to ensure that they stabilize in that housing. And then the last, I kind of mentioned this earlier, is just that we have RFPs that will be coming out in the summer to fund different interventions like rapid rehousing, permanent housing, and street outreach. And I know that you're all looking forward to those to continue your services. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me directly or us at coc@rivco.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Any questions? All right, not seeing, I'm going to take a little liberty with the agenda because I have to be on another call in 4 minutes. And so I'll turn the rest over to Karen when I'm done. On the housing resource update, in addition to the overall picture Mike presented, I just wanted to announce that there is a groundbreaking for Vista de la Sierra apartments in Riverside. That's going to be a 79-unit project with 39 PSH units, and Housing Workforce Solutions 47 project-based vouchers on that project. And then we actually did a grand opening of Pueblo Viejo Villas in Coachella. That was 105 units with 8 project-based vouchers and $1 million county contributions. So again, we're on a good path as far as those go. And then finally, before I kick this over to Karen, and Karen, I see Geneva has a hand up for when you take over. I just really wanted to express my gratitude to you all. As I said, I will be leaving as chair of the CoC, since I will be assuming the deputy director position for government affairs and community engagement with Housing Workforce Solutions. I'm really excited to be joining this team. I just had the immense pleasure of getting to know so many of you over my time as not only the chair, but in my participation with the CoC. And I just can't express the amazing work that all of you do. We all know the county can't solve this by itself. Cities can't solve it by itself. You as service providers can't do it by yourselves. It really is a joint effort. And just in my experience over the last couple of years in being at national conferences and state conferences, Riverside County is so far ahead of other jurisdictions, and the amount of collaboration and teamwork that we have and the incredible staff that the department has is absolutely amazing. And so while our numbers went up a little bit in the point in time count, I really do believe we're in the right direction. I think we're allocating and utilizing the dollars that we've been blessed to have over these last 2 years in a really efficient manner. And I'm very excited to become part of a team that I believe is leading one of the best homeless and housing solutions operations as far as I can see in the state. So with that, Karen, I'm turning this over to very capable hands. I will still be very involved with the CoC, providing you updates as far as government updates go, as well as regional efforts. And so I'm not totally disappearing, just not going to be your chair. So again, thank you all very much. And Karen, I'm going to toss this over to you.
Well, before you leave, Greg, we just want to, I want to say on behalf of everybody, what a complete, amazing rock star you have been. What an honor it has been to work with you. and how exciting it has been that when the two of us set out goals for the continuum of care in 2020, how much has happened. And that's happened through our collaboration together as chair and vice chair, staff, and the whole city. And I'm just happy that we're not saying goodbye, that you're still going to be very involved. You have big shoes to fill, and I'm looking forward to our continued work as we serve this region to end homelessness. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen, very much. And thank you all for the nice comments in the chat. So thanks again, everyone.
Before we moved on to the next agenda item, it looks like Geneva has a question about the last agenda item that we talked about.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to first of all thank you guys for this presentation. It's very informative and great. I am a new basics needs coordinator here at Mount San Jacinto College in Hemet, Temecula, and Menifee. So we are trying to find and creative for our homeless students creative housing options. Do you know if the CoC is kind of looking into maybe creating some shared housing situations for students, or for we're going to have students and they're kind of a different population, but they are still, needing housing security, but usually their income is not going to be able to support them, and they don't usually qualify for, Section 8 or programs like that offset rent. Is that something that you guys have looked into?
So a couple of things. I'd be happy to jump in. First of all, the Section 8 program now does offer shared housing opportunities for those that are eligible for Section 8, which is basically, you're eligible based on your income, and most folks that are students are at an income level where they would qualify. And we're seeing a lot of folks that are accessing shared housing. Also, too, just some of the things we've seen in the region, I can talk about, like in Corona Norco, we've been, through our CityNet partners, establishing relationships with landlords and doing a lot of shared housing placements. So I think that's something we probably want to talk about at a regional level, ways that we can expand the opportunities for shared housing. And we are today, as a matter of fact, if you're interested, let me know. We have a number of school districts that are going to be getting together this afternoon to talk about ways to try to connect districts to resources to help students. And then last, I wanted to mention, as an example, I know Norco College established a shelter program for its students. So if you want to talk offline about that, I can give you some feedback about what they did, because I think it's a best practice that could be replicated through other colleges and universities. So any other comments from the team?
I think, Karen, I'm going to take advantage of this. One of the things I didn't mention in this AHAP presentation is that 10% of the funding we are receiving is set aside to support youth-specific interventions. So I like the feedback about doing more shared housing for youth. We definitely want to diversify the different types of housing options we have. So just kind of putting that out there, that 4.2 million is coming to the continuum of care under HAP. 10% of that is specific to youth. And so keep an eye out for, again, the RFP. Would love to get some good project proposals that perhaps include a shared housing component.
Looks like Marcus, did you have a question? Comment?
Good morning, Karen. Marcus Cannon with Behavioral Health. I just wanted to make a brief comment about the question regarding student housing. I know Aspire is an affordable housing developer looking to develop a project in the city of Riverside specifically to do affordable housing for students. And I know that there have been conversations around other projects. So I think that that is certainly a resource that people are aware of that need. So I just wanted to share that that's at least one project that I'm aware of. It's not yet fully funded. I know the developer is still looking for final gap financing to close that gap. I don't know if Michelle Davis is still on the line, if she would want to say anything else about that, but just wanted to add that in.
Awesome. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, we're almost close to closing the financing on that project, and once it's done, it'll be moving forward. And we're already working in close collaboration with Riverside County Housing and Workforce Solutions, Riverside Community College, Riverside Community Education, so that we can make sure that our youth that are aged out of the foster care system have an affordable place to go, and that we're able to support them there. So
Awesome.
we'll definitely keep the continuum of care updated on the progress of that project.
Awesome, awesome. Geneva, did you have any more questions or comments? I see your hand is still raised.
No, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time putting it down. I'm trying to figure out how to.
It's okay. Been there, done that. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. Josh, if you want to queue up, I think the CES lead update. I believe we have an update from the amazing Myrelle.
Thank you, Karen.
You're
Sorry,
welcome.
a little bit of technical difficulties over here. So here we do have, oh, I'm so sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Meryl Cabazon. I am a social service planner with behavioral health. For those who do not know me, for those who do know me better as a CES coordinator here. So with that being said, we do have the CES lead updates report up on the screen right now. Thank you, Josh. The data is pretty straightforward. However, some of the key differences I do see from this month to last month in comparison is the average days of referrals to contact to housing provider. It has increased to 7.4. There has also been a dip in the VI SPDATs that have been received. We are working with agencies to ensure that we just do get the home connection referrals returned with an outcome indicated, so we can go ahead and accurately demonstrate the average days it takes for from when the referral is made to a housing provider to when the housing provider makes contact to the client. We do hope also for the next reports that we are also able to show more call center data. However, we are still working with the team to get this all squared away to be able to show that data. It is not ready yet. They are working on creating the reports. Before moving on to our brief CES update, is there any questions for me regarding the data that is presented here today?
I had a question, Myrelle. Are you able to share how many, just on average, maybe for the last month, like how many housing placements were actually made?
Ooh, not right off the bat, but I am included in all the referrals that are returned. So I do feel like there is a good, not a good amount, but there have been quite a few referrals returned with a favorable outcome. Sometimes the agencies will update us if it is an outstanding home connection referral, that they will update us that, oh, you know, it's just that their move-in date got pushed back a little bit. Like for instance, during the ESGCV meeting, I was obtaining client updates, and somebody did inform me that instead of them moving in June, which was this month, it got pushed back to next month. So we are working with agencies to get at least updates regarding housing process, but I have seen more or less a few come back. I hope that helps. I can't really put a number to it right now, but if you'd like, I can connect with you offline and give you that number.
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe moving forward, that would be a nice number to celebrate in these meetings, to say like, hey, this month we achieved this many housing placements. But I also think it's a good, you know, what made me think of it is you talked about the number of VI SPDATs. You saw like a bit of a drop. So just be interesting to kind of see like housing trends. You know, are we seeing that, you know, there's higher placements during a specific season? You know, but then also, are we moving in the right direction? Are we seeing increases with the large investments that are being made? So yeah, we can talk offline, but good. I love your report. I love all the data that you have with it being broken down by city. I know that's helpful to us, but also other communities who are applying for different grant funds. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Tanya. Before moving on to CS updates, oh, Marcus.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, please save 1 minute for me at the end.
Oh, I sure will. So if there are no questions regarding the data, CES updates, we have been receiving many updates for Clarity trainings. We have been working together on putting Clarity training in hopes to not overload the knowledge when it comes to using Clarity on a day-to-day basis. The series has been broken down into components and subcomponents. Just in a nutshell, the main components are data entry, which will include topics like intake forms, program enrollments, BI/SPDAT data entry, things of like uploading documents. The second component will be the case management component, which will include adding client locations, client contacts, entering service notes and case notes, and the difference between the two, because there is a difference. And the last component in the training series is the report and managing caseload component. This does include running a report, running client-specific reports, utilizing the calendar in Clarity to best organize appointments, as it is an option, as well as the caseload tab and the community queue. Since it will be taking over for the by name list, I do want to make sure that all users are well-versed in using the community queue to see where their clients are within that queue. It is a lengthy training and there is a lot to Clarity. I'm sure I don't have to be the one to tell you guys that, but once it is ready and finalized, a training announcement will be shared as well as how to register for the training series. I do see a hand raised.
Go ahead, Ayako.
Yes, Ayako Tsumi here from Mary Erickson Community Housing. Thank you for the data. I was wondering, to what extent do we track individuals over time? Meaning, if they were first housed through CES, 2 years ago, did they quote unquote graduate from their temporary housing or even permanent housing, and have they recycled back into the homeless count again? Are tracking people over multiple years?
I can chime in for that because I think that's a general question about our homeless management information system. So that's a really good question. We are looking at data in 2 ways, and well, in a lot of different ways, but Ayako, to your point, kind of 2 ways. One, when clients are enrolled in a program, it's very easy over the course of time that they're enrolled in that program to see, like, have they been able to maintain housing. For clients in permanent supportive housing who are generally enrolled in that program for like 5 to 10 years, we definitely have seen a very low recidivism rate, or I should say very low exit or returns into homelessness. And in our CoC staff report, I'm not going to state it here for the record because my team knows I always get stats wrong, but we do have data that shows what the exit rates back into homelessness are. So maybe what I can do, because I think that's a really good question, is I can kind of send put together an email that talks about those outcomes. But I can tell you that for permanent supportive housing, we generally have about an 80 to 90% success rate. Once people get in, they don't fall out. With rapid rehousing this year, we've seen about a 70% success rate. So once they receive assistance anywhere from 1 to 12 months under rapid rehousing, they usually maintain their housing, 30% return back into homelessness. So it's very easy to track, track when people are enrolled in our programs. In regards to once people exit our programs, the state recently, as part of our HAP application process, did a 2-year study. So they looked at our 2020 data, and I believe that again, it's broken up by intervention, but I believe it's about 30 to 40% success rate overall when you're looking at after linkage into permanent housing. But I'll put something together that just kind of brings, kind of helps answer that question in a simplified way.
Great, thank you. Yes, it'd be good to understand like what's working, what's not working over the long term to ensure that the investment is really there. Thank you, very helpful.
Great comments, Ayako. Thank you, Tanya. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, so I think we're now moving. We already covered the housing.
Karen,
Yes.
I apologize. This is Marcus.
Oh, Marcus, I'm sorry. Yes, you wanted to talk. Forgive me.
Thank you. And I'll keep my comments brief. I know you have a lot on the agenda. Or I'll try. I'm not famous for being good at it.
Take your time. We're good on time.
Okay. I wanted to second some of the things that Morel said and then just add a little more. We've given some updates previously, and I wanted to give a brief update about our CES data improvement project, because I think one, because we were going to give an update anyway, and then Ayako's question was kind of a good entree to talking about data more. Some of the work that's happened since we last met at the last Continuum of Care meeting, one of our staff who is a research specialist, she's been looking at all the national literature on risk assessment tools. So not just the VI-SPDAT, but there's dozens of other tools that get used across the nation to predict risk. And each of them has their own unique focus. Some are, prediction of risk around mortality, prediction of risk around remaining homeless, prediction of risk of being housed and then falling back into homelessness. So she's been doing essentially a literature review to try to look at all the tools that are in place, all the practices, best practices and not so successful practices around the nation, to help our continuum of care really be poised to, I think, make advancements in that area. We see ourselves, we're a subcontractor to the HWS and sort of are subsumed there within the HMIS team, but we really see ourselves as a partner in that relationship to help the HMIS team be able to answer questions like the one Tanya was just talking about, and to have broader answers about questions like Ayako's. So that literature review has been a key piece that's happened. I know that Seetlalik is her name. Seetlalik is our research specialist. I think she's talked to at least 36 homeless experts from cities around the nation, just doing essentially an interview process about what research tools are they using, what's promising, what's not promising. So that work is ongoing. And then likewise, I can't think of his official title, but essentially our IT database expert has now compared the behavioral health data set with the detention healthcare data set. So everybody that's in jail and juvenile hall. And then we're working for the final piece to try to incorporate a couple other databases, large databases of data, so that we can do comparisons across larger comparisons than we can do today. Today, as a continuum of care, essentially we have access to the HMIS data. And the big overarching goal of our CES data improvement project is to not have access to just HMIS data, but to access any other large data set that's available within our county where there's relevant homeless data, to get better at predicting risk, to try to be more informed about how we do prioritization as a community. I'm sure you all know that's an ongoing conversation nationwide of when resources are so scarce and so many people need them. What's an equitable way to prioritize resources, but also I think what is a pragmatic or realistic way to prioritize resources? Because I think that there is a continuum, as we've surveyed coordinated entry systems across the country, there is a continuum of people who are doing essentially exclusively kind of the way things have always been, where the only thing the coordinated entry does is a reverse referral. An agency calls and says, hey, Karen walked in my door, I want a referral for Karen. and there's no prioritization whatsoever, to other continuums at the far end of the spectrum where essentially somebody's got to know how to do, like theoretical calculus to make a referral off of this by name list because the prioritization algorithm is so complex. And I think that there's weaknesses at both ends of that spectrum. And so what we want to be able to do as a result out of this data project, both the research piece that's happening as well as the data comparison piece that's happening, is to get better at presenting options to you all as the continuum of care to say, here's research-informed, evidence-informed ways to do prioritization that are equitable but are still pragmatic, that let our agencies do what they do best, serve people, house people, and decrease delays. So I just wanted to provide that update about the data project. We'll continue to keep you updated as the work evolves, but I'm available if there's any questions about that.
Any questions for Marcus? I have a comment, but I wanted to open it up if anybody else had a question or a comment first. Marcus, I wanted to say that was phenomenal. One of the things I just wanted to get your, especially regarding this research project, Tanya and I were talking yesterday just about the concept of moving on, and there's different people that have different philosophies about moving on, especially with PSH because you're living with some kind of disability. I wanted to get your feedback on that. And, it's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum of what Ayako was asking about people falling out. This is more folks that have really gained stability and they're at a place in their life where they don't necessarily need those ongoing supportive services. They just need affordable housing. And, how the system can provide a smooth road to that. And if you're seeing that in the data in our region, where we've had folks that have successfully transitioned out or what we call moving on.
I think that's a good question for us to add. And part of what Morel and the team are doing is building a list of questions. When I say questions or reports or research topics. So for the 87 friends that we have on the line, please send us at Home Connect your questions around data. And even if we don't have the answer today, we want to add this list so that our database guru can say, here's the wishes of the community. His name's David. Dear David, here's all the things that the community wants to know about homelessness. Please go do your magic and help us answer these questions. I don't think we have good local data about moving on efforts. Two editorial comments I'll make. I think that with the effects of the pandemic and inflation and housing insecurity, we're going to see, sadly, more people end up in homelessness, but potentially I think more people who can be served by rapid rehousing or time-limited interventions because they've been pushed into homelessness just by virtue of economic conditions, and with some support, they're able to be self-sufficient again. So that may actually increase the number of people that we see successfully using the homeless service system and then moving on and not needing that system any longer. But what I can say nationwide, when we're actually talking about the highest priority chronically homeless population, we've learned more and more as we've looked at the research literature that permanent supportive housing for that population, that high acuity, chronically homeless population with long lengths of homelessness, permanent supportive housing is effective at getting people linked to services, and it's effective at reducing hospitalizations, and to some degree is effective at reducing public sector costs, whether that's healthcare cost or law enforcement cost. But sadly, the mortality rate for that population still remains really, really high, even when housed. And in large part, that's due to, there's no way to put a fine point on it. It's due to really terrible physical health that's already advanced by the time people get housed. And so we see locally and nationwide people with really advanced cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndromes, undiagnosed, untreated cancer, that, imagine any of us like that if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, imagine if you'd never had primary care for the last 30 years. Have you ever had a health problem that if you hadn't had intervention, you might now be, very ill or unfortunately dead? That's the population we're serving. And so we do see that nationwide. And I think it's something we're trying to have a better local picture on, but I think we should expect that our local conditions will be similar, that when we're housing people who haven't had primary care in decades, sadly, we'll see a lot of people with poor health outcomes.
Thank you. It looks like we have some questions. We'll start with Gina. I think you were first, and then after Gina, we'll go to Donna.
Two comments actually, addressing what Marcus just said about the homeless, unfortunately, being neglected for so long. I had an instance where it wasn't just that, but the person also walked out on the medical care. He wasn't patient, and he ended up dying 2 weeks later. So there's all kinds of factors. And that kind of ties into the first point I wanted to make, is that maybe we need to, I hate bureaucracy, but I think we need to create a separate channel of some kind for those people that we were just discussing about losing their home, aging out of, money and so forth, because they don't necessarily need all the other supportive services. And I don't know if that would then fall under a separate category of funding, because again, our resources are so limited that every penny that we can scrounge for helping get those people off the streets from the long term seems to be a little bit of a higher priority. But yet I'm on the verge of a group where we're going to be homeless soon because our Social Security is nowhere near enough to survive on. So I don't know how that would go about, but I just wanted to kind of talk about that concept of making two separate tracks for those that need supportive services and those that just need housing, affordable housing.
Marcus, did you want to talk about maybe, because I know there's dual tracks even in coordinated entry with rapid rehousing, which kind of gets to that population versus the PSH. That may not be the only solution, but I know there's definitely a distinction there.
Yeah, I guess what I would say, because I think this is the kind of conversation that could go on for hours and nobody wants to listen to me for hours, is the homeless population is not homogenous. We have people, right, who need all different sorts of resources, and that's why we have a continuum of care, so we can try to meet all those needs. What I would say is that the work that folks like Mike Walsh and his team do is so needed. We're behind something like 69,000 units in Riverside County. So there will always be that need to help prevent homelessness amongst a larger swath of our population. And so I wouldn't want my comments about those that are sort of the most acute, people with untreated mental health, substance abuse, they've been homeless 30 years. That's always going to be a population that sadly is going to have a lot of negative outcomes. And we shouldn't let that sort of influence our thinking about all the work that needs to get done to support families, to support seniors on a fixed income. There really is a need for a lot of different groups. And just because one group has poor health outcomes doesn't mean that we should be discouraged or despondent about all this other work that really does have good outcomes.
Thank you. Okay, I would think Donna is next, and then we'll go back to Geneva after that. Donna?
Hi. One of the things I was always interested in, and I don't know if the continuum of care even considers it, but the education department of homelessness and the precariously housed, and which it's almost like if you could help that portion, then they would not fall into homelessness, and then the continuum of care would have one less person or one less family that they would have to try and help. Because you get that data from the school districts, but with the pandemic, a lot of that data is not available anymore. But I always wondered, and I think I'm just thinking out loud, and I don't know who would even address it or include it into whatever we could do, especially when Marcus was talking about data that's needed. What happened to those people that were living in their cars or couch surfing or living with grandma or something like that during the lockdown when the kids couldn't go to school. I just always wondered, and here in the Coachella Valley, at least Palm Springs Unified School District, at least 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, they identified about at least 2,000 kids were precariously housed. That's a lot of children and their families. So it's kind of like the elephant in the room. Nobody really wants to address that group that is sleeping in cars or in somebody else's house or on their couch or something. So it was just a thought to throw out there if that's anything that the continuum of care would look at down the road.
I agree with you, Donna, you know, that those numbers are huge because the precariously housed, if you look at the Riverside County Office on Aging, I did an assessment myself. That is the largest sector of, because, you know, their definition is different than the HUD definition, right? You hit it nail on the head. So the definition of homeless children and youth for California Department of Education is doubled and tripled up, which is precariously housed. And then they also count those that are living in motels, those that are, you know, on the streets and shelters. So there's, I think it's worth a discussion about what that means. And I, you know, think we need to have more discussions with the school districts. Like I said, earlier in the meeting, we're having that meeting with some school districts today. If any of you guys want to jump on, because I think that we hear from the school districts, the folks that are, especially the homeless liaisons and others that are, you know, working with these families. And I can tell you that they're struggling to try to get them connected to resources. So your timing is impeccable about bringing this up. So,
thanks.
Geneva, did you have a comment or a question?
I do have a question. I think for Mike, and maybe you guys are the one. Is his name Mike? I'm sorry, he was just speaking right now with a burgundy tie. Yes, you. My question is in terms of data. I know I'm running into this a lot. I am trying to work with the students, brand new students, and making sure that they are aware of credit and making sure they keep their credit good, because that will definitely affect their ability to rent a house or a home or an apartment or anything, rent a room. And I am seeing that a tremendous challenge, because a lot of the I don't know, the agencies of even private landlords are requesting 3 times the income and this, you know, 650 and above credit. I mean, that's just incredulous, especially if somebody has fallen into hard times. I mean, sometimes that's the first thing to go is your credit, right? Because you're trying to just survive. How do the you know, like the housing placement agencies, or you guys that are helping with that, how do you get around that? How do you circumvent? You know, I do want to go out into the community here where we're at and maybe, you know, have that conversation with landlords, but I just want to see what is it that you say besides just saying we're going to be helping them, or is it just something that ultimately is just a regulatory practice that maybe would have to be somehow mandated? I don't know. But this is just something that I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing it a lot on Facebook. I see family, young women with children, and I have the income, but I don't make 3 times. I don't make $6,000 a month, you know, but I could pay $1,800 a month, but I don't make $6,000 a month, you know, or my credit, I'm at 600. I pay my bills, but, you know, I only have credit for 3 years. Just things like that. I'm sorry. It's just something that really bothers me, because these people live, you know, students and these families have the means to pay, but because they don't fit in this, I don't know, ideal bracket, it becomes a challenge for them. So any advice would be appreciated.
Sure. I'm Marcus. Mike was the guy who talked before. He's a lot smarter than me, but the thing that I can add, I think the good news is building relationships with landlords is a successful practice for our agencies that do housing work. What we want is for landlords to know that if they take a referral from your agency or Mike's agency or my agency, that we'll be responsive and supportive. The rent is guaranteed. We can pay incentives at move-in. We can cover damages. If the client moves out unexpectedly, we can continue to pay with CoC funds. There's flexibility to pay for the rest of that month, and we'll get a new tenant in. So I think in times of economic uncertainty, that's our value proposition to the landlord, is to say, dear landlord, we are your surest bet. If you rent to, you know, just Joe Public, he or she may just stop paying, and it may take you a year to, you know, get that person to move on. If you rent from my agency, from Lighthouse, from Jewish Family Services, from Behavioral Health, from Housing Authority, we can guarantee you all these things. So I think that's the positive side. The downside is, you're right. It's very hard for all of our agencies to house right now. Landlords do have flexibility to screen based on income, criminal background, et cetera. And in a really tight housing market where we've got 1-2% vacancy rates and landlords have 50+ applicants for any unit, it continues to remain challenging. I think that we shouldn't kid ourselves that this is a long-term sort of generational work to rectify decades of underbuilding in the state of California.
Great feedback. Thank you, Marcus. Gina, did you have another question or comment?
Yes, on that thing about the landlords, I've heard through my pipeline that more and more landlords are taking advantage of gathering up all kinds of credit report fees and and purposely string it along so that they maximize cash up front in their pocket before they decide on anything. And they'll even take information from people that they know they wouldn't want to rent to, but they're still kind of milking the system. So I don't know how to avoid that, but I just wanted to mention that that's out there too.
I think it's important for everybody to, understand resources through like Fair Housing Council. If anybody ever feels like they wanted to have a chat with the Fair Housing Council about fair housing practices, would be good. And Tanya, can you help me out with that? Our Fair Housing Council, are they covering the whole region?
Yes, they are, the entire county.
So if somebody was concerned about landlord practice and had a question about fair housing law, they could call them to get some advice.
Yes, and every month, I think you guys know, we host the multidisciplinary webinars. Emma just put in the chat box that we have an upcoming webinar actually featuring the Fair Housing Council. So if you're looking for training in that area, we'd love for you to join us.
Thank you, Emma and Tanya, I appreciate it. Okay, we have no other questions or comments. We'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is informational. Oh, we have Greg reported on the housing resource update, so we can move on to agenda item number 7, committee reports. It looks like 2 of the 3 committees did not have meetings. There's no report. You'll see that there is a Youth Advisory Committee report for the May 26th meeting, and you can access that through the Google Docs. Moving on, we did not have any requests for letters of support or recommendations, but I think you know our track record. Whenever we have an opportunity in the CFC to support those that are applying for grants and need our help, Greg and I have always been very quick to assign those letters, and Josh does a great job getting them to us right away and getting them back out to the agencies. So, and I don't believe we have any APRs to report. So at this time, I can open it up for agenda item number 8, which would be a call for agenda items for the next meeting. If you have any suggestions that you want to give to the staff, please let us know. The next meeting will be on July 27th at 10 o'clock. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to announcements. Does anybody want to walk up to the mic there and give us an exciting announcement? I like that graphic, Josh. Any announcements? Business updates.
Hi, Karen. Marcus Cannon with Behavioral Health. I don't know that she's able to be on today, but I wanted to make an announcement about a new member of our team. Her name is Monique Rodriguez Torres, and she's going to be joining our administrative team to do a number of things, but one of which will be helping us with our CoC efforts and our CES efforts. And so she'll be a name and a face that you all will start to get to know. So I just wanted to welcome her and share that update.
Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Yes, Karen, this is Linda Krupa.
Hi, Linda. Yes, let's hear it.
I think it was at the last meeting, I brought up the subject of a family they're friends of mine who were right on the edge of becoming homeless. And between you and Greg and Karen and Tanya at Lighthouse and whoever else, I just want to thank all of you so much for your efforts. As of yesterday, they were in their home. She said it is not, it's not the greatest, but it's home, and they have an option to actually purchase a home of their own. So 4 people, husband, wife, 2 kids, a dog, and 2 cats now have a home. So just want to thank whoever had anything to do with it. Blessings on all of you, and I am forever grateful to the assistance that you all gave this family.
That was awesome to report on that. It takes a team, and we're all in this together. So it was everybody's honor to participate in that. Thank you so much, Linda. We'd love to hear those stories. I think Michelle had a comment, and then Kimberly after Michelle.
Just want to announce the City of Riverside City Council next Tuesday night at 6:30 will be discussing the city's 5-year plan to reduce homelessness, which also includes how we will be spending our HAP 3 allocation and any other future state or federal resources that we do receive. So I will send Joshua the link to the actual staff report if people can't make the meeting and they want to provide e-comments, or if you want to do virtual participation on how you can provide feedback during the public comments section. I'll provide that as well. Thank you.
And that's a great opportunity. You know, we're all a big family in the continuum of care. And whenever we have an opportunity to support and encourage other colleagues that are working so hard in the trenches to make a difference, and elected officials, it's good for them to hear and receive positive comments. So you know all the great work that the City of Riverside does. So Michelle, thank you so much for giving everyone the opportunity. I know you guys have done just an amazing job.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you to all our partners, because we couldn't do this work without them.
Okay, Kimberly, love to hear from you.
Oh, thank you very much. I just wanted to shout out a huge operation that went down. This is the 3rd time we've been to Palm Springs as our agency in a collaborative effort with behavioral health, with the cities, with the county. I mean, everybody came out. Our outreach team and our housing team were there. And the resolutions to some of the problems were all worked out. I mean, my team came back exuberant. And so our collaborations can work. You know, we put them together. Melanie sort of spearheaded this, probably Tanya was involved, but kudos to everybody. Good job.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you for reporting that. We'd love to hear it. And I hope the rest of you will not be shy. We all need a shot in the arm and to hear about the amazing things that are happening across this county that when the different agencies come together to make a difference. So thank you so much, Kimberly. That was awesome. Anybody else have any exciting announcements that they want to share? Well, before we adjourn the meeting, I just wanted to thank many of you who I had the privilege of connecting with, just to reach out to you regarding the continuum of care. A lot of you had some really great feedback when I contacted you, and I still do plan to contact a number of you. I want you to know that it's my honor to serve you in the continuum of care moving forward as the chair. And I'm excited to have Michelle as the vice chair. You know, she's got like a ton of experience. She used to be the chair for a number of years, and we are here to serve you. Our City Hall is closed on Fridays, so what I'm hoping to do is use Fridays to come out and meet with you all. I already have some meetings scheduled in the eastern part of the county, and I really would like to come and see you all face to face, see your organizations in operation, hear from you, and just to know that as your incoming chair, I want to do everything possible to be supportive. You all are very smart, and we want to make sure that we hear from you and that we continue to move forward strategically with the path that we've started on with the homeless action plan and what we want to do to improve the system of services and make sure we strategically allocate resources. So just know how honored I am to be here in service to all of you, and look forward to open communication and collaboration, because that's what it's all about. And I don't know, Michelle, Madam Vice Chair, before we close out, did you want to say anything in your new role? Because we're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everybody's support and the great work that everybody does throughout the whole county. We have a lot of providers at the table and there's a lot of work to be done as well. So Karen, thank you for the journey that we're about to head into. And I know you're reaching out to a lot of providers and kind of seeing what everybody does and kind of best practices and the great work that you're doing that we can share out, as well as kind of talk about what are some of your obstacles and some of your barriers that we can help with. So we look forward to having those meetings. And thank you guys.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Just closing out, thank you to the amazing team at the staff. Thank you, Josh, for all the behind the scenes work with Jonathan and the rest of the team. And Tanya, to you as well. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Just know we appreciate you so much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Karen.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. See you later.